Hello and welcome to the Jackcast, your Swansea City podcast. I'm your host, Steve Carroll. I know I said we go a little bit quiet at the end of the season, but we have decided to make a little exception this week, and that's because we have a very special guest making his debut. You may know him. He is a top man, I must admit. I've met him a good few times, and we'll go on to discuss a bit of that, I'm sure now. But I am delighted to announce that making his debut on the Jackcast is Elis James. Afternoon, Elis, and thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join me.
Good afternoon, my pleasure. Obviously, like any debutant, I want to get a couple of goals. I want to open my account nice and early, just to settle the nerves, become a bit confident. I want to Leon Knight it and score a hat trick on my debut.
That wouldn't be bad, would it? Well, I'll try and give you a couple of assists, but I can't promise. I hope I'm better than Ronaldo. But I don't know. We'll
Oh
have to
my
wait and
God,
see, won't we?
Ronaldo! I mean, when I was told we were signing a Brazilian winger, it's one of those things where your expectation levels are instantly ramped up by about 100%. I was at the last game against Charlton a couple of Saturdays ago, and he got the ball on the wing, and I heard somebody shout, "Remember you're Brazilian." I thought, never a truer word has been spoken.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't pay you to say that because long-term listeners know that I'm really not a fan of Ronaldo. But yeah, he's a bit
Hmm.
frustrating to say the least, isn't he? But
Yeah, although I was a QPR at Loftus Road, which was it might have been the final away game of the season, actually, wasn't it? It was a couple
last but
of
one, wasn't it?
yeah,
Norwich was
last
the
but
last.
one. That was it, of course. And he played really well, but he scored after 30 seconds or something. So I don't know if that's the difference, but ultimately, when someone says that you're going to sign a Brazilian winger, you are expecting sort of Copacabana beach kind of kick ups on the touchline kind of stuff, and I wouldn't say we've had that off him.
No, I think that's that is a fair comment to say the least, isn't it? It's not gone as well as maybe we would have hoped, but
Yeah,
what can we do, eh? But
yeah.
yeah, well, there's plenty to discuss. I don't want to spend too much time talking about Ronaldo because I'm trying to forget about him for the next 3 weeks. But yes, what I was going to ask you actually, do you remember the first time that we actually met? It was quite a few years ago now, wasn't it? But
It's quite a while ago. I think I probably would have been a bit starstruck because the thing with being in the Premier League, obviously different, say, to when we went to the First Division in 81, 82, is that social media existed. So I definitely knew about you and I knew about the fanzine. I had bought the fanzine before we met, but I don't remember meeting you. But
right, actually,
I've always been impressed with people who write fanzines.
but my head's going to get bigger the other way it's going.
So yeah.
It was in the Arkles pub by
Oh, in
Anfield.
Liverpool.
Yes,
Yes, it was, and we won that day. We
we
won
did
three
because
one, I think.
I think I was talking to someone, and I think you actually said, are you Steve that does the fanzine?" And a couple of my mates heard, and I was thinking, "Oh, there you go. See, people know who I am." But yeah, and I think
I
we had a
tr-
little chat, and we said we both agreed we were about to take a pasting because Paul Clement had just taken the job, and as
yes.
you rightly say, we ended up winning, which was a bit of a surprise.
Was
And
it
I think
three
then you
two?
ended up back in the pub afterwards, and we
Yeah,
sort of locked eyes and went, "Where the hell did that come from?"
it
And
was
yeah,
exactly that. And it was that day. This is a very boring, non-sport or football-related observation, but I just bought a new coat that I thought was gonna really set me apart when it came to terrace chic. And I realised that it wasn't cut out for Liverpool in January or whenever we played that game because I was absolutely freezing for the whole game. And that was Liverpool. That was the Euro when Liverpool had the sort of five amazing players like Coutinho and Chan and Salah and Mane and Firmino. Is that the five it must have been?
they weren't quite that good then. I think Mane may have been at the AFCON. Coutinho was there. Klopp hadn't been
Yeah.
along. Firmino was there because I think he scored the two goals.
Yes, and then they sold Coutinho to Barcelona, didn't they?
Yeah, that was
And
the year after, I think.
but we shouldn't have won that game. We won 3-2. Llorente scored the winner, didn't he? I think.
He scored the first two and Sigurdsson got the winner.
Oh, that was it. Of course, yeah. But that was. I mean, Swans fans, we're a bit like Wales fans when it comes to Euro 2016. We're now far enough away from the Premier League era to look back on it very fondly. And I think very few of us realised what we had at the time because we were able, certainly in the first 3 or 4 years, to go to some really big clubs, and I always thought we'd give them a game. Like I think I only saw us lose at Arsenal once, and I only went to Anfield once because what was so frustrating was I was a circuit standard then. You would put it, yeah, I would put in a Saturday gig like in Liverpool or Chester or something, so I could go to Anfield, and then they would move the game to the Monday night, so that it was on telly, and that just meant that I was in Liverpool on a Saturday when for no reason. So I only got to go to Anfield that one time, and we won. And that's proper, especially if you grew up in South Wales where there's Liverpool fans everywhere. It was just magical.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was similar for me. I went to Anfield a few times. That's the only time I saw us win. I didn't go to that League Cup one, the year that we
Oh
won
yeah,
it. And
yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
go, if I'm honest, because of 2 years earlier, I booked a half day in work to go to Wigan to see us play the reserves. And that
Oh, of
sort of
course.
scarred me a bit. And I thought, well, do I want to go to Anfield and if we're not going to take it seriously? But as soon as I saw the team, I was like, well, if I'd known, I would have gone. But
Yeah, that Liverpool game, a mate of mine went and he got the bus in like Ammanford, was drinking on the bus, and then they didn't let him into Anfield because he was too pissed, and he had to go to a pub and just watch it on the telly. And he got
oh
the
dear.
minibus back to Ammanford.
Yeah, that's not great, is it?
No, but it just
Yeah.
feels like a long time ago now.
Oh, it feels like a different world, doesn't it? In the same way
Yeah.
that when we were young and down the vetch, that feels like a different world as well. But they were great times, as you say. We got to go to a lot of these places, didn't we? Would you say you've got a favourite game from that era? I mean, there's a lot of competition, isn't there?
Valencia. Valencia, I think, is obviously it's not in the Premier League, but Valencia, right? The Arsenal 2-0 the Michu game would be up there as well. I was there for that. But the Valencia game, I think, is our high point because even though, Chelsea, I was there at Stamford Bridge when we beat Chelsea 2-0. When really we won the League Cup that night because I knew we could sort of shut up shop at home, and then we were going to play Bradford. Obviously, we're in League Two, but the thing with Valencia is because Bradford they didn't put up much opposition. It wasn't really much of a contest. They're still, I think they've won the fourth, they're the fourth most successful club in the league history. It's only Athletic, Bilbao, Barca, and Real Madrid have won the league more times than Valencia. They're a genuine big European team. So to beat them so convincingly away from home, and to be there, and the weather was good, and they've got this iconic ground. And Laudrup was our manager. I think then I on the flight home, I honestly thought we were going to win the competition. I thought we were the best team in the Europa League that year. And I thought we've got this guy with amazing European pedigree in charge. We've proven we can do it. And I didn't get to go to Napoli. Sadly, I was working. I couldn't get out of it. But Valencia is my favourite. That and Bury when we won when we got promoted are my two
Yeah.
favourite Swansea games ever.
No, that's fair. I mean, Valencia is definitely my number one. I've always said that because, what experience do you get where you can go to Benidorm with your mates for a few days?
Oh,
And
of course.
I
Yeah.
remember just being in. There is a bit of a story that the bus broke down on the way to Valencia, so we ended up being the last one to arrive, which is a bit irritating. But I can laugh about it now. But I
Yeah.
just remember being in the main square, everyone's drinking and thinking, could lose 4 or 5 nil here, and who cares? Like we're here, and then
But yeah, and it was different because I'm not old enough to have gone to the European aways when we were getting into the Cup Winners' Cup via the Welsh Cup. So I didn't. I was too young to go to Panathinaikos or Monaco or any of those games. But the thing with us being in the Premier League and having won an English competition, we were there as a really good side. And obviously, the point of the European Cup Winners' Cup is if you won your nation's domestic cup competition, you got to enter, which is why Merthyr got in there and Bangor City and all of us. But the Swans going away to PSG in when was that 1989 or 90 and getting not PSG Monaco and getting thumped 8-0.
yeah.
That it was different going to Valencia when you've got Boney and De Guzman and top players like that. But it was just unbelievable.
Yeah, it was just a mad time because I think I'm not sure if everybody else feels the same, really, but I'm not sure we fully appreciated what we did. I think it all just felt like it came so seamlessly and easy in some
Well,
ways. And
I don't think we get the credit for it, actually. And I think that Bournemouth and Brighton get more credit for doing what we did first.
yeah, that's
Because
probably true.
the maths of it is crazy. Like the Hull game is in May 2003. We're in the Premier League in May 2011. And then in March 2013, we've won the League Cup. And then that's September, we're beating Valencia. So that's, it's 10 years.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane when you think about it. Considering as well how chaotic we were in the 90s and the sort of early 2000s and back end of the 80s as well. We just a mess really. And I'm trying to work out. I have this conversation with sort of other football fans. It's a good one to have if you're in the pub with fans of lots of different teams, especially teams outside the sort of top 4 or top 6. Who has had the most chaotic 50 years? And I think Luton are probably just ahead of us, but I can't think of many others. Oxford United won the Milk Cup, and they were in the first division, and they went down to National League. And obviously Leicester won the Premier League, and now they're going to be in League One, but they were never right down the bottom. And we were facing the abyss, in the Hull game. Like I thought we were at halftime, we were sort of down and out. But for it to be such a quick change without serious money being pumped into the club as well, and to do it via a style of play with lots of different managers, like this is a thing that I know this upsets a lot of Swans fans, but I don't think Hugh gets enough credit, if I'm honest. Because he and Martin Morgan and the rest of the board from like 2002 to 2013 didn't really make a bad decision.
No, I can't disagree with you. It's they did make amazing decisions over a very long period. I mean, I know obviously at the end they made some that were not so good, and
Yeah.
but ultimately, did they leave it in a better place than what they found it? I mean,
Oh my
that's
God,
as
yeah.
obvious as night follows day that they did, didn't it? So
Yeah, and you could. There are clubs who've never had what we've had, and
absolutely.
you know, eh, like I was watching the Rochdale York game, and the thing with Rochdale is they had decades of nothing. Like they were one of those clubs who were never really going to go up. They had a couple of failed playoff attempts, and they were never realistically going to go down, and they never really had a cup run of note. Whereas with us, it's always exciting. There's always something to play for. I think the worst bit, like I remember being at Barnsley for the playoff final, or being in Cardiff for the playoff final against Barnsley, and I really felt we deserved to go up that season. And I actually, for some reason, because we'd won the LDV against Carlisle in the same ground a couple of months earlier, I walked to the ground quite confident, which is unlike me because I'm quite pessimistic when it comes to the Swans and Wales as well. But I thought it was kind of our time, and then we lost on penalties. And I found that much harder, say, than when we eventually got relegated from the Premier League, because the writing had been on the wall for months, actually a couple of years. And you can kind of see it happening in slow motion. Whereas losing a playoff final on penalties or whatever on Northampton game, last kick of the game, it's so heartbreaking. And that's probably the one blip in our journey between the Hull game and the Valencia game is that Barnsley playoff. But yeah, a lot of clubs just sort of exist. There is even clubs in the Premier League who just sort of bounce around, and they're not gonna get in the Europa League, and they're not gonna go down. And I just think eventually, what's the point, really?
I'll
I
always
think
look at Valencia and say how many clubs like in the Premier League have had a day like that in Valencia. Now you might say one or two more in recent years because you've got Villa now are doing well in Europe and
yeah,
Forest are doing well, so are Palace, so maybe they can compete with that now. But I mean, you'd be talking single figures though, wouldn't you? I'd have thought who've had a
yeah.
day like that.
And I also think it is different. Obviously, I know Forest have won the European Cup twice, but there's very few fans. So I would imagine the proportion is quite small of people who were at those games now, because it was in 79 and 80. So that's, 46, 47 years ago. And I think that with Forest and Villa as well, even though obviously Villa won the European Cup as well, with their European runs this season, they're really going to appreciate it. I think it's even sort of the case for Tottenham when they got to the final. They won the UEFA Cup in the 80s and stuff. But if you're a Liverpool fan or a Man United fan or a Man City fan, you're used to the big European aways, and they are, they're quite routine. Whereas I was filming a sitcom during our run in the Europa League, so I really wanted to go to Malmo and I couldn't go, and I was able to go to Valencia, but I couldn't go to Napoli, and I was absolutely gutted that I couldn't go to Napoli. And the thing with the Napoli game or the thing with the Valencia game especially, was it was a kind of must. It was a completely must-have ticket. And I think that if you're a Liverpool fan or a Man City fan, there are European games you can give a miss to, because they're going to be around next season as well, and because there's so many European games now, it's not, it might not be your only chance to go to the San Siro or the Bernabeu or whatever. But for us, we knew what it meant, which is why that there's still such fond memories. Like, I'll never forget Valencia. That is absolutely seared onto my mind, and it will be for the rest of my life. It's a bit like when we got to the semis at Euro 2016. You knew that you had to make the most of it. And that's when sport's at its best.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we knew, didn't we? That I know you said we could have maybe won the Europa League, and I'll be honest, when we did win in Valencia, I was thinking, well, Fulham have made the final, Middlesbrough have
Yeah,
made the final,
Middlesbrough,
you know.
Celtic as well.
Yeah, you're thinking, well, why not us? If you get a little bit of luck with a
Yeah,
draw,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
and let's be honest about it, we should have beaten Napoli. We did outplay them over two games. It
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
quite go our way, did it? I mean, you look at what effectively was the winning goal. I think there was a deflection. Did Chico clear it off Ben Davis and went straight
Oh,
to Higuain?
yes,
Something
yes.
like that. When you just think your luck's out sometimes, and realistically, we should have been in front with a lead going over there. But look, we were just a bit unlucky, I think. But I do think we could have beaten most teams in it.
On our day, absolutely.
Yes,
In the
if
way that
everybody
we
was
could,
fit.
if everyone was fit, because when I look at the first 11 against Valencia, I think, bloody hell, that's a really good side.
What's funny is, though, there were a few people missing that night.
Yeah.
Leon didn't play, and I don't think Rangel played either.
Yeah.
I think Tiendali played, would you believe?
Yes, I think he did. Yeah. Good old, who I don't think I'd recognise, actually, now, if he walked into a pub.
Well, I wonder what he's doing. I haven't heard much from him in the last
No, I
few
haven't
years.
heard much from
But
the
but
Tiendali camp.
but yeah, it is a weird one because Michu and Boney played, but yeah, there's a few others that, like, it's a shame that Leon didn't play because you think he's been on so much of a journey with us, and yeah, unfortunately he missed that one.
Yes.
But it is
Yeah,
what
and
I actually
Tate
don't
as
think
well.
Ashley Williams played either. I think he was
Oh, did he
injured,
not?
and that is as unique as it gets because he was never injured.
Yes, there was some mad statistic with Ashley Williams that sounds so outlandish. I actually don't repeat it anymore because it sounds like bollocks when you say it. But he played like 29,000 consecutive minutes in the Premier League or something ridiculous, and you think that can't be right. But someone did work it out, and obviously he didn't have a great time at Everton, but he was always linked with Arsenal, and I think he would have sorted Arsenal out if he'd gone there a little bit, a little sooner or earlier than when he went to Everton. I think he was slightly past his best by the time he went to Everton.
Yeah, I
And
remember
so,
in his last season with us thinking that he wasn't as good, and I think we actually cashed in at the right time. Which I know
yes,
the club
yeah,
take a little bit of stick for it. I think the issue far more was that they needed to make sure they then spent the money elsewhere to improve the team, not just on bringing somebody in. So, but I don't think they necessarily got that wrong because it didn't work out great for Ash at Everton. But
no, and
you
his
know,
sort of Wales career was petering up by that point as well. Which again, it was strange because when we got to the semi-finals of the Euros, I remember looking at the average age of the team and thinking we might get another 6 or 7 years out of this side. Because Bale would have been like, I think he just turned 26, and Ramsey would have been 25, and Allen would have been like 26 or something, and you still think to yourself, blood, and they all had like 60 caps. That's the other thing. But really, when we had that the World Cup campaign that we missed out on when we lost to Ireland, and then Giggs came in and he realised that the writing was on the wall for a lot of those players. Like he transitioned that team very quickly. Too quickly, I think, for the fans like him, but he was probably proven right in the end.
Yeah, it is interesting what Giggs did there, isn't it? Like I think he got rid of one or two too quickly, but generally maybe he wasn't wrong. But also, like I did feel like we had a bit of a squad at that point, so I can understand what he did.
Yeah,
But it was, yeah, I think Ash may have been jettisoned a little bit quickly, but I mean, you look at some of the others, and I'm not sure he did get it wrong. But it's,
yeah.
what was interesting was I think Johnny Owen did a documentary on this, didn't he, just before the World Cup in 2022, and Chris Coleman had said that he knew the team needed breaking up, but he couldn't face it.
Yes, that is an amazing scoop for Johnny because managers, even though you know that's the case, they never ever admit it. And I actually thought it was quite brave of Coleman to admit that because he'd taken that team on such a journey and he couldn't face telling, I don't know, Neil Taylor that his time was up. And yeah, I was quite impressed with Coleman for admitting that out loud because most managers wouldn't, because you have to sort of imply that you're very ruthless when you're a manager. But they were like a family, I think, that group, and it is hard to tell players that their time is up at a club. And it's a bit like when I didn't fully appreciate this till the Swans got relegated from the Premier League actually, but when you'd see players crying and stuff on the pitch when they'd been relegated, when I was younger, I never really understood that. And this happened at the Swans, this happens at all clubs. It probably wouldn't happen at Tottenham or West Ham because they're such big teams. But when a club gets relegated from the Premier League, staff lose their jobs because the
Yeah.
turnover of the club is sort of halved pretty much overnight. And I remember there's that Twitter account Swiss something where they look
Swiss
at
Ramble.
where they look at the finances of clubs. I remember they did a sort of deep dive into the Swans when we got relegated, and like our shirt sponsorship deal was literally 10% of what it had been in the Premier League when we were in the Championship. So suddenly, the numbers don't add up, and so you're having to, ditch coaching staff, and the attendances are down, which means that sort of the casual staff on a Saturday selling burgers and stuff. There's fewer jobs for people like that, and I think the players who are crying on the pitch, a lot of them know that as well, and feel a terrible guilt. So I'm slightly more appreciative of that now.
Yeah, it definitely is true. I think at certain clubs, it was down here. I mean, it happens generally over a period of time, doesn't it? Because if you can get back after a year or two, you probably get away with it a little bit. But
Yeah, yeah, of
obviously,
course.
that didn't happen down here, did it? And once those parachutes run out, then
Ugh.
you really are in a different world, aren't you? Which is is what happened really over the last few years. I mean, I actually wrote something in the fanzine, the most recent one, like over the last 5 years. I think we've finished between 10th and 15th, and it's like between 57 and 64 points. So we're remarkably consistent, aren't we? Even though
Yeah.
it feels like during the seasons there's a lot of ups and downs. We seem to have a lot of good and bad runs, but then it's in the end we end up very similar to what we have done for the last few years.
Well, I think we finished in the same position this year that we finished last year, but with 3 more points. And someone told me just before the Charlton game that if we draw 0-0, we'd have been on the same points, the same amount of goals scored, same amount of goals conceded, in the same position as the season, like literally exactly the same. And I was worried before we brought Matos in that we were going to go down. I thought we'd run out of luck actually, and I think that now, if you look at our form since November, he's been a good appointment for that reason. Because once he sort of steadied the ship, I thought, actually, fine, we're going to be all right. And you had Sheffield Wednesday, were always doomed, and Leicester looked bad from the start as well, and Oxford as well didn't look great. But we were struggling back in September, October, and to go to the Premier League would be amazing, but ultimately we can't go down to down to League One. That would just be terrible for the club and for the city and for the whole area.
Yeah, it definitely would have been. I think I saw you at Bristol City, didn't I? And
Yeah,
I think I clocked your eye at half time and it was like, oh God, this is really bad.
Yeah, it looks
And
shit, didn't it?
because I think you said you were thinking about going to West Brom, and I'm not sure if you did in the end, but I did, and that was probably the real low point because I remember just
Oof.
thinking to myself, we really are in big trouble here. And to be fair, it didn't transpire that way in the end. So Matos does deserve a lot of credit, as you've said, really,
Yeah.
doesn't he?
And it must be very hard to come into a team and to a club, especially moving countries, when we a squad that you don't know yet, but you just know that they're getting bad results, and to try and get a tune out of them, I think he's done very well. Actually, I know we disagree slightly about whether he's the right man for the job sort of long term, but he saved us this season, and yeah, I'll always be grateful to him for that. Because obviously, the thing with Cardiff, I mean, obviously when they went down, the one bonus is that they've come straight back up, and so they've spent the season winning games, which must be a good laugh. And we've never really had that since we got relegated from the Premier League. It's not like we went down that first season, we were swashbuckling. I mean, I did enjoy this season and Graham Potter, but again, we finished 10th or something, and it's on the way up. And like Jacket and Martinez and Brendan Rodgers, there was a time where when we were one of the best teams in the division, and it was nice turning up to games feeling fairly confident that you were going to win. And I haven't had that, apart from at QPR, because they're always terrible. I haven't had that for a while.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. I mean, we did have that year under Steve Cooper, of course, didn't we? But it was the COVID year, so
Yeah.
it doesn't quite feel the same, does it?
No, I felt very detached from that. And I've realised actually since moving to London that actually my relationship with the club is not to do with how well we're doing, it's to do with how often I can go.
How often can you go? Because I was going to ask you this. I mean, is it usually about double figures a season?
Yeah, I
is it
reckon
roughly
I
that?
do it's now about 10 games a season. So there was this great period in the obviously the big difference is that the amount of online highlights is, for someone like me, because I live in London, is a godsend. But the thing with the Premier League era, because I was a circuit stand-up, there was a promoter who he looks after. He runs all the gigs. He works with some companies like Darrow Breen and Lee Evans and Jonathan Ross, and they run loads of gigs. And he's a West Brom season ticket holder. And I would call him when the fixtures came out, and he would basically put me in the town where we were playing. So in the Premier League era, I was going, especially away from home, all the time to pretty much everything, actually, because I was just combining it with gigs. And like when we were bad in the early 2000s, because I was a student then, I was just able to go all the time. So I've actually, it's not really to do with how well the side is doing. It's where my life fits into it. And I think as the kids get older, especially if they start showing an interest, and I'm able to go more often, then it will change again.
Yeah, but I'm not convinced on your son though. After what you told me after Charlton, what was it you
No,
said again?
I, I bought him a ticket, and I said, "Hey, do you want to go watch the Swans on Saturday? It's gonna be exciting. Last game of the season, and the players will come out on the pitch and they'll thank all the supporters, and be a really fun day." And he went, "A day?" And I said, "Yeah." And he went, "A whole day?" And I said, "Yeah, because we'll stay with Mum Gee with your grandmother in Carmarthen, and so we'll get the train in the morning, and then the game's at lunchtime, but then we'll obviously hang around afterwards." He went, "A whole day? Just feels like a waste of a day, actually, Dad." I thought, oh my God. So he went bird watching in the end with my mother in the botanical gardens, so near Croissants. But he's only 7, and he's only year 2, so I'm working on him because his next door neighbour's absolutely obsessed with Crystal Palace, a big Palace fan. So I think that his influence will get him into football. And the way I remember primary school is that year 1 and year 2, you're just larking around in the playground. But then by the time we got to year 3, the football matches at like break time and dinner time were quite serious. And I think I was talking to his sister, to my daughter, and she was saying, yeah, that's how it happened with us. Like the boys now especially play football all the time at lunchtime and things. So then if he gets into football, obviously he'll be the Swans. My nightmare scenario is he becomes like an Arsenal fan or something. I mean, that would feel like a real failure on my part.
I'm sure that won't happen. But I think you're right, though, because I think I remember getting into football when I was about 8 or 9. So he is still, he's
Yeah,
got
he's a
time on
little
the
bit
sides, I think.
young, and it's a long time. The first cup final I remember watching was '89 Liverpool Everton, so I would have been 8. And I'd started off watching Liverpool Wimbledon in '88, but got bored and went outside to play. So I think 7 is just on the it's on the cusp. So yeah, I've got high hopes for the 2027-28 season.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, but look, if he doesn't want to go, it means you can go to the pub, I suppose. So there is that
Yeah,
positive, isn't there?
yeah.
Yeah. Right. I'm going to wrap up part 1 of this now, but
No
we will
problem.
have a part 2 shortly. So stay tuned. So, Elis, what's your relationship like with the club? Because I know you've done a few things for them. I know, infamously, I've got to ask you about this: the Wrexham preview and the line "earned not bought." Because I mean, I agree with
Yeah.
you entirely, but it didn't go down very well, did it? In the northern part of our country.
Bloody hell. I well, I wouldn't say I'm the most popular comedian in Wrexham. I'll tell you that for free. I think the thing with that line is, ultimately, I always liked Wrexham because I'd met a lot of Wrexham fans through watching Wales. And Humphrey Carr, who's like the third guy, he's obviously got Ryan and Rob, and then Humphrey as well, who spends more time in Wrexham. I've known Humphrey probably for almost 20 years through comedy. I went to his wedding, actually. But you've got to admit, and I felt sorry for them because they were stuck in the National League, and what would happen? It looked like they were about to go up, and they would often lose their manager, and occasionally they lost their manager to like a big rival. They lost, was it Sam Ricketts went to Shrewsbury, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
And but ultimately they've been bought by 2 Hollywood superstars. Like you can't deny it. And just like Cardiff City were bought by Vincent Tan, and sort of Newcastle had been bought by a petrol state, and the same with Man City, and PSG and all this kind of thing. Like obviously it's different in that they're actors and not Middle Eastern oil sheiks, so it is slightly different. But they were stuck down there, and then they got bought by Ryan and Rob, and now they're flying in the Championship. And I didn't write that line. It was someone at the club who wrote it. But I wanted to do
stitched up, have you?
Well, I mean, I could have said no to it. But the thing is, I think Sophie, who's head of the media at the club, I think she's amazing. And I think that the club, we're very lucky to have her. And what she's very good at, because, she's been going down to the vet since she was about 3, season ticket holders.
She's a fan, isn't she? So
she's
just
a
gets
massive
it.
fan. She absolutely gets football. She gets the club and she gets us. And I think what Sophie's very good at, and I'm going to compare this to Cardiff now, is she is brilliant at making content, for of a better phrase. It's a very unpleasant modern phrase, but that's what it is. But especially social media content that gets our fans going. So the video she made with Stefan Rodri, who plays Dave Coaches in Gavin and Stacey before the Cardiff game,
that's amazing, that one
was absolutely fantastic. And the thing with Stefan, Stefan was born in Morriston, I think, and he is a proper fan. I bump into him at quite a lot of away games, especially the London ones. So he's a very famous face from the city. He's not a Johnny come lately sort of supporter. He's been going for years and years and years, and also he's a brilliant actor, Stefan. So that one they did together for Cardiff, where he's walking around various spots in Swansea itself, I thought it looked fantastic. And we'd gone to the effort before the South Wales derby, and I watched that video. I must have watched it 10 times because it's a big game anyway, but it really got the blood pumping. And Cardiff had done a sort of very generic can't wait for the South Wales Derby on Saturday kind of point. You're like, come on, guys. You've got, in the modern world, you have to do better than that. And Sophie's very good at it. So she texted me. She said, do you fancy doing one for the Wrexham game? And obviously, I wouldn't say it's a Welsh derby, but it's not, they're 150 miles from us or whatever it is. And so we've got a slightly different relationship with them. But A, it's a Welsh derby in the Championship, and B, because of Ryan and Rob and Snoop and Luca, there was going to be a lot of interest in the game. So I felt really flattered that she asked me. So she'd written a poem, and then I saw that line. I thought, oh, bloody hell. But I didn't think many Wrexham fans would watch it, because I don't really watch content from other clubs. Anyway, I did it. It went out within about half an hour. My social media was unusable. And I thought, this is going to stick around for a while. And what's interesting is, obviously on the day when it's gone out and it's getting viewed a lot, you get an awful lot of stick, but you can ignore that. But then, like when we lost up there, the racecourse, when we lost 2-0, a few months later, I got an awful lot of stick again. And then occasionally, I don't know, if we do badly, Wrexham fans will. Only a few of them. And the thing with Wrexham as well, and this is true for all clubs, all football clubs, is that the ones I've met are really decent. But the online lot, the faceless ones who I will never meet, they're the ones who give me an awful lot of stick. Although I still I can't really understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, I think that Wrexham are probably now just getting a lot of stick generally, aren't they? Because people are, I don't know, there's probably some jealousy. But I think from my point of view, I'm a little bit fed up of all the media coverage and everyone going on about them all the time. And the truth is, anyway, they've got nothing to be embarrassed about, but it has been bought. I mean, just own it. I wouldn't, if I was them, who cares?
No.
Because I mean, they've had misery for years, as you've mentioned. I mean, you know what?
They
If that's the way out of it, I wouldn't care.
I think there's a few things. It's a historic, really genuinely historic club. And if you don't think it is, then you need to read your history, because at the very beginning of football, Wrexham was like fundamentally important, as in the area. And a lot of our best players have come from the area. And the racecourse really is the spiritual home of Welsh football, and the FAW was founded up there. And it's a football town. It's certainly not a rugby town. Like, I both know that Swansea and West Wales, more generally, you are struggling with the rugby in terms of attendances and stuff. And they don't have that problem. I suppose their problem is competing with Man United and Liverpool and Everton and Man City to an extent. But they were stuck down there. And then Ryan and Rob, from what I understand, they looked at other clubs. I think they looked at Hartlepool and Port Vale and all sorts. And they chose Wrexham because they thought it was a good story. And it's an amazing story. And in the same way that Snoop now is involved with us and Luka Modric is involved with us, I had this moment of clarity when Snoop went to the Preston game and made the tunnel smell of weed, and the manager was complaining and all that kind of stuff, and the scarves and all that kind of thing. When you consider that, 75, we had to apply for re-election to the Football League. Then Tosh comes, we go 4-3-2-1. Comes sixth in the First Division, which is the lowest we were all season, having been top until March. And then we get relegated the next season. Then we go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then by 85, we're back where we started. And we wound up in the High Court. And then you got Doug Sharp. And then you got Tony Petty and Silver Shield and Ninth Floor and all that nonsense. And then obviously the Hugh Jenkins era, when we end up from the Hull game to Valencia in sort of the space of 10 years. I just realised with the Snoop and Luka Modric thing, you just have to sit back and enjoy the madness of it all. Because we're never going to be Arsenal, who have been a first division club top 5 club for decades, or even Everton. It's always going to be a roller coaster. And I think you have to kind of accept that in my time going at the Swans, the ground has changed, the people in charge have changed, the manners have changed, and the players have changed. The only thing that stayed the same is the people I go with. So then you've just got to enjoy the madness of it all and accept that we're, not a basket case, but we don't do things the orthodox way. And Wrexham are the same. So if Ryan and Rob had chosen us, I'd be fucking loving it. But
would we all?
Yeah. The only thing I think that you could argue is that the council paid for the stadium, but in terms of bringing in revenue to the council and to the city, we paid, the club being in the Premier League paid for that fucking many times over. But that's the one stroke of luck I suppose we had. But also it was Swansea's Wales's second city, and we didn't have a proper stadium for the football or the rugby. I mean, that's all for big gigs. I mean, it's insane. So
Yeah.
it's not like some a dodgy family from the Middle East decided to spunk a load of money on us. I mean, I'm fairly, I'm fairly comfortable with the fact that Swansea City Council decided to build the Liberty Stadium.
Well, like you say, they definitely had their money back for it because
Oh
of
my
the advert
God,
that they
yeah.
gave. I always remember, I
Exactly.
think Rodri Morgan gave a speech, didn't he, about saying Chris Coleman did more for Wales in a month than he did in 10 years as First Minister, because that is the power of sport, isn't it?
Yeah, well, look at Gareth Bale, what he's done for the and actually, I'm probably saying this because I'm a massive cycling fan, but Geraint Thomas, the Tour de France is the biggest annual sporting event in the world, and when he won it, he had a Welsh flag around him. And with Gareth Bale, obviously Ryan Giggs won the Champions League a couple of times, but the thing with Bale, when he would win it, he would always get a Welsh flag immediately. And like I was in Qatar for the World Cup, and you're talking to people who, from born on the other side of the planet, completely different culture, but they all knew who he was. And it's just in terms of putting Wales on the map, there's no one better, certainly better than any of our Hollywood actors, I think. And in terms of putting Swansea on the map, being in the Premier League, I mean, I don't have to tell you this. Do you remember when we used to go away and there'd be a load of Danish people there because of Michael Laudrup, and a load of Koreans because of Key,
Yeah.
and a load of Americans? I can't remember. I don't know if this guy listens to your podcast. I hope he does, right? But I went to Arsenal away. It was the sort of back end of the season, and it was a quite meaningless game from what I remember. We weren't going to go down, but we weren't. It was no great shakes. I don't think Arsenal were trying to win the title. And this guy had come over from the US. He'd just chosen the Swans, and he'd put a thing on Jack Army or Planet Swans or something, saying, "Listen, my name's, I don't know, Mike from New Jersey, or whatever. I've never been to a Swansea game before. It's my dream, and I'm actually flying over to Heathrow, and I'm going to go to the Emirates to watch the Swans play. I've got a ticket. I can't wait. Where are the Swansea fans going to be drinking? Which bars they're going to be in?" And a load of Jacks were like, "Well, we're going to be, in this pub, so come and join us." And I happened to be standing next to him, right, or like a couple of rows behind. He had the best day of his fucking life because I think we won. I think we scored a late winner, or certainly scored a late
Is it
goal.
the one where Gomez scored a header?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, and he was like, he'd flown over from America to watch his club. Fans from the area taking him under his wing. I just remember watching this guy thinking, this story 20 years ago would be inconceivable to any Swansea fans. Like when you're bothering going to Doncaster away or whatever, and there's 150 of you. But the club did put the area on the map, and I love our Premier League time for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I went on a New York trip in 2006 with Gosainen College, and I think we went to ABC Studios at a tour. We were trying to
Oh
explain
yeah,
where we were from, and they weren't having it. They didn't get it at all, basically.
it's
And
having
then,
it.
and then I don't know. A few years later, my mother's gone on a cruise ship, and or I think maybe in a flight to then go on a cruise, and she's talking to someone on the flight, and it was someone from America, and my mother explained it from Swansea, and the person replied Premier League. That is
Yeah,
literally
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
power of it. It is
yeah, yeah,
unbelievable. Like you
yeah.
know,
Colin Murray told me. Colin Murray had done some massive charity bike ride in Africa, in a sort of really remote part of Africa. I can't remember the country. And he said the first thing to go is phone signal. The second thing to go is electricity. And the third thing to go is references to the Premier League. So you can be in a village that doesn't have phone signal and doesn't have the internet, and there's no electric, but there'll be a kid walking around in a 3-year-old Man United away kit. And the I don't think we realise actually, unless you do a lot of travelling abroad, just how massive the Premier League is. And we were in it for 7 years, and a good side.
Yeah, no, it really is huge. It's far bigger than what you can comprehend. I mean, the fact that I think us and Wrexham have got, I think we've got more followers on social media than Cardiff have, and
Oh
I
yeah,
think
I
that
wouldn't be surprised by that at
no,
all. Yeah.
but I think that says it all because in Wales you'd probably it wouldn't be like that, would it? But
No, no.
that is the power of it. I know Wrexham are not in the Premier League; they may well go in there at some point, but it's if you can market yourselves, you get that publicity. When I went to New York a couple of years ago. I went there in Vegas. It was my treat because Wales didn't make the Euros, and we were in a bar in New York, and they advertised that they were showing Premier League games and they show Wrexham games, and it's. So that shows you the publicity, really, that they're
Yeah,
getting. Then it is mad.
John Williams, who I think you might know, the big Swansea fan, he was telling me that he was at a school event, like his kids' sort of assembly or something, and there was a guy in a Wrexham cap, and he was like, "Oh, another Welsh guy. I'm going to go and introduce myself. Always like to do, make Welsh friends in London." And the bloke was from the US, but he'd chosen Wrexham because he'd fallen in love with the club through the football program, and it's hard for me to criticize them because Humphrey's such a good mate. But like when we played them at the race course and Ryan and Rob were doing the alternative commentary, they should have had Snoop and Luca and Lee Trundle or something. But that's a very one-sided sort of media approach to a game that's got two teams playing in it.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? It's just a mad old world out there. That's the only way you can really describe it
Football's
these
nuts
days.
now. Football is just nuts now.
Yeah, the idea of local people and whatever else, and teams living within their means, they're long gone.
Yeah.
It's just gone berserk. What I was going to ask you really is, what are you up to these days? Because you seem to have your fingers in so many pies that we could easily lose track of it. But how do you keep yourself busy? What does a week look like for you?
I do the show with John on a Friday, and we've started a Patreon now. So once a month we release was effectively a 45-minute TV show for the Patreons. So the last one was to do with the marathon because producer Dave and John had run the marathon. So we did a sort of a day in the life of two marathon runners. So that's good fun. And with the Patreons, there's also bonus content. And then I do Distant Pod once a week. And we're looking to start filming some stuff now as well. And we have guest episodes. So we did one with Geraint Thomas. We've just done one with David Doherty, the Irish comedian, actually, this morning. And he was fantastic because even though he's a really good comic who I've known for a very long time, he is absolutely sports mad. So he was great for us. And I do a history podcast called Oh What a Time. And I've just started doing stand-up in English again. So it was my job for 10 or 12 years. And then I got asked by S4C to write a show in Welsh, which is my first language. And I loved doing that. In fact, I enjoyed it so much, I then switched doing stand-up just in Welsh. So I would write a new show every 2 years or so. So I did 4 of them. And then in January, I'd seen some really good stuff in English, and it just inspired me, and I wanted to dip my toe back into the water. And I got to do a charity gig for a cause that meant quite a lot to me. And I thought I'd love to, but I've got a routine, I've got a set. So I started doing like 5 minutes in little comedy clubs to try and build some material up. So now I'm back doing gigs I like. So I'm doing a gig in Chelsea tomorrow night. So it's a bit of stand-up. And then I think at some point I will write another Welsh language show because I've got an iPhone note of English ideas and an iPhone note of Welsh ideas. And the iPhone note of Welsh ideas is longer. So I think I should probably take advantage of that. But I haven't started writing it yet. But at the moment, yeah, it's sort of gigs and podcasting at the moment. And also, I cycled from Cardiff to Tenby last week.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about this. How did that go?
Was absolutely mad, right? And obviously, most of our listeners would be South Wales, so they'll be able to understand this. Llanelli is West Wales, isn't it?
Yeah.
I cycled past Parc Scarlet, and I looked at my watch, and I wasn't halfway. You think, bloody hell, Tenby's a long way. And the Cardiff to Swansea on the bike is actually really nice, and it's not too hard, and it's quite flat. And I did the National Cycle Route 4, where you sort of go through Swansea itself, and then up by St Helens, you sort of turn up there, and then you end up going through Blackpill and past Dunvant Rugby
Yeah,
Club
I
and
know the
towards
one.
Gowerton. And it's lovely. And it was a nice day. And at that point, I was loving it. But the last 20 miles are a bit of a grind.
I'm assuming it's more hilly, is it?
You get to Carmarthenshire, and in fact, you get to Kidwelly, really, and it is brutal for about 40 miles. It's just, I grew up there, but it hadn't occurred to me, because I wasn't much of a cyclist when I lived at home. I'd only ever driven those roads. It hadn't occurred to me just how undulating Carmarthenshire is, because you'll do a really big climb. Obviously, then you get the benefit of the descent, and then there's just another one, and it's like that for 40 miles. And I was quite glad it was over at the end. But it was a fun event. I'm glad I did it, and I'll definitely do it next year.
Well, it's definitely a good thing to save down. Do you think it would have been easier to go the other way? Because at least then, once you get to Kidwelly from Tenby, you're
Yes,
like, well,
you've
it's a bit flatter now.
done the
Psychologically, you've
hard
done that a bit.
yards.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one uphill by Kidwelly, and I thought, this is never ending. There was a bit. I looked at my watch. We were in Pembrokeshire. I looked at my watch, and we'd done about 95 miles, and I overtook this guy on a big hill. And as I overtook him, he went, "I've had enough now."
That's fair.
I thought, yeah, fair enough, mate. It's there's one called Chase the Sun, where you start at sunrise at sort of 4:40 in the morning and end at like 9:30 at sundown, and you end up doing 200 miles, 210 miles. The Irish one is, the English one's 205.
Oof.
And I thought that's 100 miles more than what I did on Saturday. That is hardcore. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to do that, but yeah, we shall see.
Well, it just depends. If you can be persuaded into it.
Well, my brother-in-law is an absolute beast. Like, it was, I wouldn't say I'm unfit, but he is an absolute monster. So if Jacob fancies it, I'll do it. But he had to wait for me at the top of every hill. So I think it's one of those things.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So you say you're going to be doing more comedy gigs in English. Are you like? Is that likely to mean a tour? And might you come to this area? Do you think?
Well, we did a tour. Me and John did a tour last autumn. So we did the new theatre in Cardiff. We did Swansea Arena, which was great, because I'd never performed at the arena before. And I'd
Yeah, you
not been
scheduled it for the worst day possible, didn't you? When Wales were playing England at
Oh
Wembley.
God, yeah,
Which,
yeah.
look, I wish I'd come to yours instead. I'll be honest, because yeah, that was not great at
Well, it
Wembley.
was annoying because the tour got booked in first, and I suppose if I'd been really, if I'd been really organised, I would have seen that it was a potential international weekend. But the fixture hadn't been announced.
The chances of the game being on that day, though, and it being England away, I mean,
Exactly,
astronomical, aren't they?
exactly. So I was gutted because I knew we'd take a big away following, and I've never seen us beat Wales. So England. So the last time we beat England was in 1984, but I don't remember that. Mark Hughes' debut, believe it or not, which dates it. So I
Yeah,
was,
it
and
does.
I've seen us lose. I was there at the Euros. I've seen us lose in Cardiff as well, and I was just, because at that point there was such a buzz, behind Craig Bellamy. I thought, bloody hell, imagine if we get a result at Wembley. Like, it's such a rarity, You're going back to the sort of Leighton James era for us to beat England at Wembley. I thought that would be amazing, and I will be absolutely gutted if I'm on stage in Swansea and we've beaten England at Wembley. But alas, not to be. But Swansea Arena was great, because when I was a kid growing up, all the gigs I went to were in Cardiff. We used to just drive past Swansea. There was nothing in Swansea. It's great for the city that venue exists.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't been to too many things. I saw the Maddox in there, and I
Oh,
saw the
nice,
snooker
yeah.
a little while back as well. But yeah, it is good to have a venue like that, as you say, because it's always felt like we couldn't attract certain people down here because of it. But it's
Oh, definitely,
no,
yeah.
it's really good to have that there now. And like you say, if you're going again, then obviously I'm assuming that hopefully you'll be able to come down again.
Oh, yeah, totally. And don't worry. I've bought enough copies of the fanzine that I'll give you a comp, Stephen, if I do a gig at Swansea Arena again.
Well, you heard it there first. There we go. Yeah, you put yourself under pressure now. But yeah, well, you would, like I say, you would have got out of it last time purely because yeah, I was at Wembley and having a thoroughly miserable time. But
God, we were outclassed, weren't we?
I remember after 20 minutes thinking I'd like to leave. I think I did stick it out until about 75 or something. But so many people had left at that point that the queue for the tube was huge. It was worse than when I went to Oasis at Wembley.
It's such a funny thing, that football. Like a play, for instance, has got to be absolute doggerel for you to leave before the end. But with football, if it's going badly, so many people are 70 minutes like, oh, fuck this.
I think from what I can gather with that game, particularly, a lot of like England fans are forced into going because of like membership points and stuff. But if you don't live in London, obviously, it's a midweek. And I think a lot of them are leaving just to get the last train home if you don't live in the area.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it might be down to that. I'm not saying they would do that necessarily if it was a qualifier or something, but
yeah,
I think that was a lot of it. And I think a lot of Wales fans also were looking, going, well, if I leave now, I can get the last train to get back to South Wales or wherever.
Well, this is sort of new for Wales fans because my brother-in-law's a big Scotland fan, and he's gone to the World Cup. He's done like 100 trips or something, and because Scotland always, even when they're bad, they take thousands away. You have got people harvesting tickets, they call it, where you're quite high up, and then you're buying tickets for sort of Latvia away or whatever, and then you might not go, or you're but they're trying to clamp down on that, and then you've got to pick it up in person.
Yeah, this is what Wales have done, isn't it?
Yeah, because he was so desperate to get tickets for the World Cup, and he could see that there was a good, there was the beginnings of a good team. He was like dragging himself to countries all over Europe just to keep his membership points. It is something about the international football fan who does away trips. I love it. There's this slight sort of sense of martyrdom to it.
Yeah, well, what got me into it really was the Swans European ones that we were talking about earlier. So
yeah, definitely.
That's got a lot to answer for. It's cost me a lot of money down the years, but brought a lot of joy. I mean, I was looking today.
Nothing beats it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've sold over 1,000 now for this Romania friendly, for example, and it's in the summer. It's not. We were meant to have Greece. I think a lot of people were thinking that would be a good trip, but
yeah,
we're taking well over 1,000 today. Now I'm not actually going to this one, but it does show you people just love it, don't they?
Well, we took 1,700 to Albania's fourth city, Elbasan. It's not even the capital. And with Romania, I mean, because obviously I'm a bit older than you, I just think of '93 when I think of Romania. But in the first game of that group stage, of that qualifying campaign, we played Romania away in Bucharest and lost 5-1, and there was about 40 Wales fans there, I think. So to take over 1,000 there for a friendly is just brilliant. Obviously, there were no cheap flights in those days, and the culture has changed. But yeah, it's brilliant, and I think the players respond to it as well. And to be honest, it's the same with the Swans. In the '90s, our away followings were bad, apart from a couple of big games against big clubs like Newcastle in the FA Cup and stuff. But now there'll always be a good few hundred. Like, did I see what Portsmouth?
No, I wasn't at that this year. I've been to. I was at Charlton. I think you were at that one, weren't you? Millwall, I was at.
Yeah.
So,
but I was at Portsmouth and it was a Tuesday night, and there was about 800 Swansea fans there, and I thought that is impressive. I think, considering when you consider where we are geographically, because I've always been very jealous of like the Midlands clubs because everything's pretty easy for them.
Well, that's the thing. For the Midlands, like we're probably one of the furthest trips. Yeah, for us, it's one of the closest, isn't it? They don't know they're born, do they?
No, and even for the London clubs, the sort of this just general public transport is geared towards getting to London, so they're lucky as well. But for the Swans, also a lot of our fans are from west of the city. So if you're coming from Carmarthenshire or Pembrokeshire, there's a fair old trek. My friend Phil Richards, a lovely bloke, old friend of mine. I remember doing Crawley in the League Cup. It was the year we won it, I think. It might have been the first.
Yeah, I think Monk scored a header at the end, didn't he, to sneak us
through?
Yeah.
And he'd come from Carmarthen. Crawley's in bloody Sussex. It's miles away on a weeknight. And I don't think we get. Sorry, it sounds like I've got a chip on my shoulder, but I don't think we get enough credit as well for our away support sometimes.
No, I know what you mean because I know a few people from west of Swansea, and I mean, saying if they're going on the bus, I mean, they've got to drive to the bus, haven't they? And if it's for
Yeah,
some
yeah,
of these
yeah, yeah.
horrible things, there literally is no public transport to get you to Swansea, so they physically then have to drive. And I've got a mate that lives in Pembroke Dock. I mean, he works away now, so he's not there very often. But I mean, he'd get a train down because he doesn't drive, and I mean, it's 2.5 hours on the train, and that's
Oh,
the
bloody hell.
exactly
Pembroke
that's the
Dock.
commitment. You know, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
I mean, you can basically see Ireland from Pembroke Dock.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, that
he does it.
is fair play. Yeah, fair play. That's
Yeah, no,
impressive.
there's every club has got them, but I think it is probably a little bit different with us, isn't it? Because of, as you say, we're just geographically where we're a long way
Yeah,
from a lot of places, and because the catchment area does go so far west, and the public
yeah.
transport and stuff is crap. But
Us, Argyle, and Sunderland.
yeah, it's yeah, Plymouth are probably the only one that have got it a bit worse than us, I think. But yeah,
Yeah, I did a gig in. Oh, where were I think I did a gig in Newcastle, and I got the train up from London, and we were changing. I don't know where we were changing, but I remember talking to some Argyle fans, and they were playing Carlisle.
oof,
And I said, when did you boys get up? And they were like, oh, we were on the train at sort of 5 to 6 or something. And you just think, Jesus Christ, that is that. And Argyle are the same as us in that they've got fans in Cornwall.
yeah, and they
You
always
know,
take big numbers, don't they? You always see them
they
on the
do. Yeah,
services.
yeah.
They're one of the
100%.
fan
Yeah.
bases that you do see on service stations.
I think there's quite a big Devon diaspora because I think, a lot of people leave the area for work. So especially when they play London teams, there's always a big Argyle away following because they've got a lot of supporters living in London.
Yeah, I think
But
a lot of clubs have, haven't they? So you always get
yeah,
that little. It always feels like in London we've always got about 1,000, even when it's a midweek. And I think it's
yes,
because we've got the likes of yourself who obviously are not
yeah.
too far from the area, and with there being a few London teams there, then it's ideal, isn't it?
But if you are an Argyle fan, hats off because everything is a long way.
Yeah, it is. I suppose it could be worse. We had Carlisle versus Truro last season, didn't we? So I mean, I think it doesn't get more extreme, does it?
Yeah, and Merthyr been in the National League North for some
Yeah,
reason. Just
they're still
hilarious.
in there, aren't they? I think it didn't.
Yeah,
The teams that
yeah,
are relegated didn't make a difference, but it is what it is. Before we finish, I was just going to ask you really about what's your hopes for next season. What do you think we can do? I mean, where would you like to see us potentially bring people in? Do you think the likes of a Potnik are going to go? What's your thoughts? Your general thoughts, really?
I love Vipotnik, and the thing with Vipotnik, other than Piro, Piro's probably the last one where you've got to play and you think decent opportunity or decent chance in the final third. He probably will take it, and they are so hard to come by. And I know that financially, the thing that makes sense is to sell him, but it would be they're just hard to find those sort of goal scorers. And I must admit, with Ida, I wasn't impressed with Vipotnik last season, as in the first season he came. Well, I know we were looking to get rid of him, and I wouldn't have missed him at all. And to be honest, I would have completely he would have been a footnote. I would have forgotten about him. But he's been brilliant this season, and he just scored twice against Charlton. You think, is that what he needs? He's struggled with his fitness, and maybe he needs to get a couple under his belt to increase his confidence. I don't know, but goal scoring worries me. I mean, I'd love to see Matos put his stamp on the squad and have a good summer, but the finances of the club generally are pretty perilous and parlous, and it does worry me. So I don't know what the sort of I don't know how much money we have to spend.
My guess is we will have to sell to buy. So I'd be very surprised
Yeah,
if the Potnik doesn't leave. But I mean, as long as we get a good price and then we can reinvest some of it, then
yeah.
unfortunately, I think that has to be the mindset.
The thing has always stayed with me from when we were successful in the Premier League and on the way to the Premier League was Martinez was really good at unearthing sort of diamonds in the rough from Spain and Scotland as well to an extent because of his links up there. And we got Borney from Belgium.
No, it was it was Vitesse, wasn't it?
It
In
was
Netherlands.
Vitesse, yeah, from the Netherlands. I always get those two mixed up. And Michu was another good example. And you sort of think, if we can look in, maybe not necessarily the top 5 leagues, but a bit
We seem to be
below.
looking in Scandinavia really now, don't we?
Yeah, and Walter looks like a good player, and there's bound to be some good Portuguese players or players from the Portuguese league who Matos will have identified. And I think you've just got to be a bit cute and you've got to think outside the box a little bit, because financially we can't compete with the biggest clubs in the championship. So you've got to, you've got to be sensible. But I'd love us to give the playoffs a good go.
Yeah,
But I think everyone says that, don't they?
I feel a little bit like we need that sort of campaign just to get a bit of enthusiasm back, because it just feels
Yeah, I'd
like
agree with that.
it's all a little bit run of the mill. And I'm not criticizing anybody for this, but it's like I said earlier, this last 5 seasons we've all ended up in a very similar position, and it just feels like that lift. I mean, I suppose you could say that if the playoffs do go down to 8th, which they will next season, that might give a bit of a boost. Obviously, this season we'd have stayed alive, wouldn't we, for a little bit longer? I mean, I don't know if I'm hugely in favour of the move, but at the same time, I do see that logic in it. So, I think that's what we need, isn't it? A bit of enthusiasm, because I do think even if we were to go back up at this stage, it wouldn't capture the imagination like it has on the 2 previous occasions that it's happened.
Yeah, the thing with it going down to 8 is that if you win the playoffs from that position, you're going to really struggle in the Premier League. And I can't believe I thought this actually, but after the Reading game, I remember I was on the tube on the way home after the Reading playoff in 2011, and there was a Jack opposite me on the train, and he was in tears. And I just remember thinking, amazing. But I was in the back of my mind, I was thinking, are we going to get hammered every week? And if we get hammered every week, how much fun is that going to be? And obviously that didn't happen. So if we were to go up, I think football's changed in the last 15 years, and I think it would be more of a struggle to stay up. But you've got to be in it to win it, and you don't want to bounce around the championship forever. So you've got to shoot for the moon a little bit. But I just think financially, I was also hoping that Luka Modric, he must have identified some decent players because he's such a football obsessive. Maybe he's helping us out that way. I don't know, but
I think maybe after he's retired that'll come, but I wonder if he's going to retire after the World Cup. So we'll see, won't we?
Well, he's bloody 40.
Well, that's what I mean.
Still
He
playing for
must be
AC
hanging on for
Milan.
that. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, we shall see. But if he could take more of an active role, that would be fantastic because he's an icon of football. So that would be really good for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, we shall see. We shall see.
Indeed, we will. And we're just about out of time. But a huge thanks to Elis for joining us. I hope you'll come on again. I think you've had your debut has definitely been sufficient to warrant a second appearance. If you're
Thank you very much.
Yeah, maybe
Cheers, mate.
maybe what we'll do is if you're free around the time of the South Wales derby, that could be a good time.
Yeah, I can wind them up as well.
Get you on. Well, I say that, but maybe we have to win first, don't we? That's the issue. So maybe it'll be just before, just to maybe
God,
light the blue touch paper. I don't know. We'll have a see. It depends on. You're a very busy man, so it depends on your availability anyway.
I hate that game. I hate it.
Yeah. Well, we can't do anything about it. It's coming back with a vengeance. Yeah. But yeah, as I've just said, big thanks to Elis for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed. We will be back soon when there's some news to discuss. It's all quiet at the moment, isn't it? As you'd expect. I'm sure people are on holiday and one or two are preparing for the World Cup. But yeah, huge thanks to Elis and to you for listening, and we'll be back soon. So bye for now.